VerSprite is a cybersecurity consulting and managed security service provider, or MSSP. We get paid to do a lot of different things. Some of our customers pay us to break into their applications and organizations. So that's called red teaming or penetration testing, a practice called threat modeling.
Hey guys, and welcome to the Grow IT podcast. One of your hosts here, Trey King. And today we are excited to have our guest, Tony UV from VerSprite Entertainment. And then we'll be diving into his story a bit today, as well as, what his company does and some engaging insights into the technology industry. So make sure to stick around for this one. But without further ado, Tony, welcome.
Thanks, Trey. Great to be on. And always like to talk shop, share some ideas that might be beneficial for some of the listeners out there. Hopefully, I'll make it compelling, and this will be a fan favorite.
Yeah, that sounds great, man. Tony, if you don't mind, if we can kick things off, if you don't mind, just to introduce yourself and tell a snippet or two of your story.
Absolutely. Yes. So I am a Cornell University alum. I graduated in 1998 in the area of international finance. Fast forward to today, I'm actually in the cybersecurity space. So many natural questions happen as to how I got here. I think as it relates to my recent past 20 years, I've started a number of businesses. The first and foremost is one called VerSprite. It's a cybersecurity consulting business that has over 500 plus customers worldwide. We have an international team of close to 70 employees, and we focus in the ever tenacious space of cybersecurity, which is not an easy space to operate in, given all the natural threats and state actors that are out there trying to cause an enormous amount of ruckus to both individuals and to governments and corporations. I also started two other companies. One is a service firm in the global talent acquisition, helping a lot of customers find diversity and talent, especially in the cybersecurity programming technology space. And then we also formed another company that is focused on cloud security. An ever-changing struggle for a lot of companies is, how do I securely move to the cloud without getting compromised or losing my data or losing my keys to my kingdom? So I also wrote a book in 2015 with a fellow industry leader of mine named Marco Morano. We wrote Risk-Centric Threat Modeling. That
Wow.
book was endorsed by the cybersecurity czar of the White House, former General Howard Schmidt under the Obama administration. And he actually wrote the preface to that book. We were very fortunate to get his thoughts, military background, to endorse a what's now a threat modeling staple in the threat modeling community, which is this risk-centric threat modeling book. So that is the elevator 1 minute descriptor of my life. But glad to be on and glad to share some insights.
Your like you mentioned, your quick description of your career, it's very much colorful. There's quite a lot. It's quite a lot that you've been busy with, man. But tell me, how did you specifically now to the cybersecurity, how did you get into this business sector? What was it that you decided obviously to start the business in this one, and or sparked your initial interest, if I can rather say?
Yeah.
What is it that you're so passionate about it?
Yeah, good question, Treg. So I think this particular part of the conversation, I'll put a chapter title of "Timing is Everything."
Yeah.
In 1998, when I left Cornell, it was the beginning of the .com era, and that really allowed me to jump in. I worked at a computer lab at Cornell for 4 years, and
Yeah.
I was at the right time at the right place to dive into IT, and had the fortune to be able to get onto some really cool and interesting wild roller coaster rides with startups that really got me that bug of IT and system engineering and programming and network administration and things like that.
Yeah.
Fast forward into roughly the early 2000s, right around the time where many of you might remember the dot com, not the dot com, but the year 2000, the Y2K bug, right?
Yeah,
So for those
can remember.
youngins out there that maybe were born after the year 2000, or were too early, maybe late 1990s, the Y2K bug was a lot of major concerns in multiple different industries when the clock turned from 1999 to year 2000, so many software components were going to break. And from there, really security awareness, the issue of downtime and availability start to really come up. Again, right time, right place. It was around the time where I segued from IT into the information security space, which is now more formally called cybersecurity. So over the past 17 years at VerSprite, we have built a company that is really trying to be a blend of two different mindsets: the
Mm.
hacker and the person that understands business acumen. Um, I started VerSprite in 2007 in the middle of a recession, which, by the way, is a phenomenal time to start a business. And I left a Fortune 50 organization where I had, responsibilities of buying services in the consulting space, and I wanted to do something different, something
Mm.
that had more of a tailored approach, something that really understood technology and could articulate technological cybersecurity problems in a way that was meaningful to business people. So that was the kind of the whole how I, at right time, right place, first
Yeah,
beginning in IT, and then also right time, right place for the age of the cybersecurity birth.
excellent. Tell me, based on your expertise, what have you like been picking up regarding market trends? What are you aware of? What way are the winds blowing these days?
Yeah, absolutely. So I see a lot of trends where everyone as an entrepreneur has an idea, they have a proof of concept, um, and they want to get to like an MVP product, or it could be also, a type of service that they're developing.
Yeah.
And everyone, I think, from a business mindset is trying to get to capital, right? Because capital is very hard to get to. And
Yes.
so if they can basically develop something that finds a niche where there's a lot of interest from investors, they look at that as a major milestone and almost like a validation, right, for their business idea, which it is, right? When you have investors put millions of dollars behind you, then obviously it's a validation feeling. Um,
Yeah. They
I
want the
think that
ROI, right?
absolutely, and it's definitely a moral high. And but the problem is that there's a statistic. I don't know how accurate it might be, but they say that a lot of in cybersecurity startups today, I think that upwards of 95% of them are backed by PE firms, right, private equity firms, venture capitalists, and so forth. You start
Yeah.
to lose your soul, right, because you have an idea, and the trend is still to continue to look for outside capital. The problem is that a lot of those companies are put onto aggressive business timetables for revenue generation. That the more the bigger the investment, the bigger their sales responsibilities are to be able to meet the investors' return on investment that they're demanding for the 5-year pro forma or the 3-year
Yeah.
investment period or 7-year investment period. And that's obviously been a major trend over the past couple of years from a financial liquidity and financing standpoint.
Tell me, and then what would your take be on the on the current market sentiment, obviously now specifically towards cybersecurity?
Market trends in terms of like a consumption or
Yeah, like market sentiment.
yeah.
What's the market like at the moment?
Oh, yeah. No, that's an excellent question, actually. So, actually, in next week, I'm going to Austin, Texas, to meet with a bunch of different investors. And over the past, I would say 10, 15 years, I've always kept conversations with investors
Yeah,
readily at hand just to kind of get a pulse on the market.
sure.
Where they are today is that, they're kind of lost their luster on product, and they're very excited about services around product. And I'll tell you why. Product in and of itself, when you sell a product, and let's say that you're the CTO for a blooming fintech company around the world,
Yeah,
um, I sell you a product. It's, you go through this honeymoon phase. The product gets implemented. It generates some dashboards, reports. It does some level of functionality. But over time, if it doesn't have the right process around it, what happens? It becomes orphaned. And a product that becomes orphaned doesn't have a repeatable revenue model because it gets cut eventually,
Good point.
right? And
Yeah.
so a lot of the sentiment around, especially by investors, is to be able to have services wrapped around a product so that that solution can be sticky within
Mhm.
the target market. Sticky products have greater longevity, obviously preserve ARR, annual recurring revenue, for the company and also for investors. So there's definitely a shift. The valuation and the multiple around products, used to be over 10, right? And
Yeah.
now that has been mostly awarded to products that have a services wrapper around it.
That's very interesting. Obviously, talking to our clients on our end, to like 2024 for them was a bit more towards a downwards curve, right?
Yeah.
Whereas looking at 2025, they are very much on. I think the right words would be cautiously optimistic,
Yeah.
for what's coming. And but I mean, what you just mentioned now on those investors and the way they currently see things, that's quite profound. It's very interesting. The I think this is maybe a good time, Tony, that if you don't mind, just to explain to the listeners what is it that your company does.
Yeah. So VerSprite is a cybersecurity consulting and managed security service provider, or MSSP. What
Okay.
we do, we get paid to do a lot of different things. Some of our customers pay us to break into their applications and organizations. So that's called red teaming or penetration testing. We're known for a practice called threat modeling, and
Yeah.
that's building a model of threats on banking, healthcare, government applications that need a model built so that that product owner can know how to defend it, right? And they can know how to improve design, improve how they're coding the application, improve how they're securing the application in the cloud or on-prem.
Mm.
But overall, we are a consulting leader in the cybersecurity space. We're known for our threat modeling, where again, we developed this threat modeling methodology called PASTA. It stands for Process for Attack Simulation and Threat Analysis. It stemmed from the book
Yeah.
Risk-Centric Threat Modeling. And we do a lot of managed services where we help clients to detect, respond to cyber events, cyber incidents that might be affecting them and their entire organization.
And then what would you say, if you could maybe latch onto that, what would you say would be the most significant value that your business obviously can bring to the table to other businesses? Uh, you've obviously mentioned a couple of things now already, but just from your point of view, the biggest value.
Yeah, I think that question is really important for all the entrepreneurs that are out there listening. And
Yeah.
I actually had a really good conversation with someone that basically said he heard the story of VerSprite. The majority of our customers, we have a very small sales group. We have like less than five.
Yeah.
And the majority of our customers, over 500, are Fortune 500 organizations. We've grown through word of mouth. So I've more of an operational excellence person where I focus on the quality of the work, and that
Yeah.
helps to provide longevity of customers, and word of mouth. But he said, if I don't know you, if I'm not in your circle of customers and major
Uh,
organizations,
yes.
how do you make a compelling argument for your value proposition? And it was a great question, simple question, but yet a powerful question.
Yes.
And to answer your question, it ties into that. Like, what do we do that is of a great value proposition? Because there's a lot of cybersecurity firms out there. I think our major differentiating thing is that we help companies understand how to contextualize all of the security noise that's out there into a model of threats. That's the simple way of saying it. Another value proposition that we oftentimes say is that we'll help you build an application threat model or an organizational threat model in less than 2 hours. Security takes a lot of time. And the problem that we're facing as an industry today, many of you out there might be buying security services or actually be a cybersecurity company yourself. You can
Yeah.
recognize that there is a litany of different products that are helping to secure applications, software, code, cloud, networks, data, right? There's so many facets of security that needs to be protected, that the buyers of that are like, they're filling their shopping carts with all these products. And then they go back to implement what they want is a security ecosystem to work, functionally in their environment. And it's not
Yeah.
happening. And so
Mm.
they spend a lot of money and they don't get a lot of the output and results. And that provides an opportunity for us at VerSprite to be able to help them to streamline, automate, and contextualize. Um, our current slogan, Treg, is evolved security consulting. This day and age, as we look at the tone that's in business, that's in government, that's in, startups, is efficiency. What can we do
Yes.
more with less?
With
And of
all
course,
right.
everyone's looking to the holy grail of AI, right? I think there's been some commentaries from like, places like Tesla or Nvidia and other places that they're saying, listen, the AI phenomena is a work in progress. It's going to take
Yeah.
time, money, and effort. But everyone is really demanding that there is greater efficiency. We're have been looking at that, and I think our value proposition is definitely to help our customers become more efficient as it relates to security adoption, implementation, solution management.
I agree with you what you said on, on the value points of, making sure that positioning is right, especially what we do as a company. When it comes to cutting through that noise, and creating that ecosystem around that value. So, but I mean, the value that you just mentioned to me now, I mean, that's quite profound. It's definitely something that I can now actually understand why you guys are so successful the way you are. The Having said that, I would like to get your take on, how to just on building and scaling, a resilient team in today's digital, economy. What would your take be on that building and scaling?
It's incredibly difficult. I'm not going to lie.
Is it?
I think there's a lot of systemic problems that that some of it are in academia.
Yeah.
That we have a supply chain issue of capable talent and evolving technologies. Take for example, machine learning, right, or data
Yeah.
science, or natural language processing. These are some of the more evolutionary topics that where do you find them growing on trees? No, you don't. In addition to that, I think the mindset of the workforce today is different from the mindset of the workforce culturally, going back 20 years ago. um I The pandemic didn't help, right?
Yeah.
The pandemic created isolation, and I think some level of challenges in our societies globally that made kind of put us back from having a mental fortitude and being at work. And what I see and somewhat fear is that there's businesses that are seeing that, right there. You see a lot of churn, and you see a
Mm.
lot of employment cycles where there's hiring and letting go, and of course
Yeah.
globalization has increased tremendously and displaced a lot of the natural in-country talent opportunities, because it's a global market. So it's challenging to navigate cultural differences, linguistic differences, time zone differences, um, and
Yeah.
then you
There's a
look
lot,
at
lot of variables, right?
so many variables. It just makes it really complex. I think this is why a lot of people are looking at how can they try to cut costs on the pragmatic and have that largely done with automation through interfaces,
Mm.
some level of natural language processing and algorithms that could make decisioning right from at a system level. But scaling is hard, especially in consulting. I mean, scaling is really hard. You're
Yeah.
basically trying to add on more customers
Yeah.
without adding too many humans, because then your overall, going back to the business model, your
Yes.
valuation, your earnings before interest, tax depreciation, and amortization value takes a hit, right, because you have less of a margin. So it's extremely difficult for those reasons.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you. Especially when it comes to the consultancy side, time is the enemy, and there's
Right.
only so many of you. So yeah, I fully get that. tell me, in your opinion, what's, if we can maybe just look holistically at this in business in general, in your opinion, what type of mindset would you say is needed to be a successful founder of a company?
I think, a mindset that looks at failure, which is inevitable, right? You're going to
Yeah.
fail on a sometimes even daily basis. Um, there's a lot of cliches when it comes to, being an entrepreneur or leading. And, one of them that stands out is that it's lonely at the top. I think if you're going to start a company, it'd be ideal if you can go at it with someone that you can trust, where you're both complementing each other, right? um, but it's whether you're doing it individually or as part of a team, you need to be prepared to handle failure and know how to pivot from failure. That could be financial failure, that could be on product execution, go to market failure, that could be
Yeah.
on marketing failure. um, it's not about if and when you fail, it's how you pivot when you fail. And that is the quintessential spirit that has to be woven into the mindset of an entrepreneur or a leader today. You're always going to get a lot of criticism. Um, and there's this modern day pop artist that she says, if you haven't been criticized, then you haven't really built anything of worth, right? It's easy for people to criticize when they themselves haven't been in your shoes, walked in your paths and things like that. But
Yeah.
you have to be able to have a thick skin. It's important to have a clearly defined vision, have milestones, and also know when, it's okay to be able to pivot or to change direction, or sometimes even to close an idea in order
Yeah.
to focus on another one. um I'll mention an example. Technically speaking, I began VerSprite earlier than 2007, but there was um a dip in the market, and there was also some, I think, over exaggerated expectations on my side when it comes to revenue recognition and demand patterns that I was clearly still getting my bearings on. And
Yeah.
then what I did is I took a hiatus in building out the company and working for another startup. And in that time, it was kind of like a sabbatical, because now I was looking at lens from a different perspective. I kind of took a time to step away from the problem set of building a business. And then once I was able to use that income to be able to start the capital injection into VerSprite, because I bootstrapped the entire company myself with no debt and no private equity.
Yeah.
Then it was able to come at it much at a different angle with much more veracity and execution that was proved to be sustainable for 17 years. So
Tell me, Tony, where can the listeners, where can we all get hold of you guys?
on LinkedIn, you can keyword search VerSprite. VerSprite's kind of a weird name. It means truth spirit. Ver is a stem in Latin for truth, and sprite is Greek for
I wanted to
spirit.
ask you.
Yeah, it's kind of a unique name. But so on LinkedIn, do a keyword search for VerSprite. Go to versprite.com for more information. We have a great blog content. If you want to kind of see some of the research that we're doing in the cybersecurity
Yeah,
space, I
definitely.
definitely invite you to take a look there. And then if you want to follow me on LinkedIn or Twitter, feel free to follow me on Twitter at T0NYUV. So it's Tony with the zero UV, and then on LinkedIn as well, just linkedin.com, Tony UV. So
Tony, I need to thank you for joining today and providing these excellent insights. I think I know from myself, but I mean, I think for the listeners as well, I think we all learned a lot here today. All the best to you and your, not just this, but obviously your other businesses as well. Like I mentioned earlier, I can fully understand why you guys are so successful. All the best, and thanks for joining. Appreciate your time.
thanks for having me, Trey. This was awesome. Great to see you. Hope to see you again sometime soon.
Excellent. Thanks.
Take care.